questions and jokes. Thank you, fellow retreatants, for being so sweet and kind. It's nice living amongst nice people like yourself. Isn't that nice? So well done, everybody. It's very good to have that sense of harmony and a bit of kindness. A smile every now and again really helps. Ajahn, if you don't mind, yes, I do. If you don't mind, can you teach death, rebirth procedures so that I don't have to call you for instructions when I'm dying? Thanks. How many times have I said, live in the present moment? You're not dead yet. So actually, the instructions are make peace, be kind, be gentle. You're doing exactly, when you're dying, you're actually doing exactly what you're doing here in this meditation. In fact, this type of meditation is called dying practice. Because when you die, what happens? Your 5 senses disappear. They go. And when they disappear, what happens next? You see the beautiful light, the nimitta, and you go towards that light. Does that ring any bells for you? Because that's what happens in meditation. In meditation, the 5 senses get subdued, you let them go, they're all nice and still, so they vanish. And so you vanish there, the 5 senses disappear, and what happens next is beautiful light in the mind. Precisely what happens when you die. And then you realize how you can let go and just have fun with this nimitta. Already some of you have got into some really almost deep meditations, you've come across fear. And that fear stops you sort of going that bit deeper. As one person said, like coming onto a precipice. You're getting deep in meditation. Something inside of you know, if you just go that little bit further, it'd be beautiful, wonderful, and lots of great insights and weird experiences, but it's going to a place which you don't know. And because you don't know what's going to happen afterwards, I can tell you it's brilliant, it's great, you can read in the books, yeah, it's a wonderful thing to do, but because you've never been there yourself, it's the fear of the unknown. So in this meditation retreat, little by little, you go deeper into those states. And the simile which I gave early today in the interviews is actually what happens, just like a little kid, the child has just learned how to walk, and his mummy takes the child to the swimming pool. And the poor little baby, the girl, doesn't know what to do with water and is scared because it's unknown. So mummy lets the daughter put a little toe in the water and then take it out again. That was okay. So then you put a foot in the water and take it out again. That was actually quite nice. Then put your whole leg in. And so the little daughter puts the whole leg in and swishes it about. That was really nice. And little by little gets confident that water is actually quite safe and pleasant. And then the little kid jumps into the water. And once it's in the swimming pool, the mum can't get it out again afterwards because it's having too much fun. And that's exactly like what happens in these meditation states. At first you're a bit sort of scared because you've never been there before. So you just tip your toe in and come out again. And just a little bit more next time. This feels really good, a little bit more, and that's wonderful. And then you go in and you can't come out again. You're having too good a time. Great. So this is what happens as you let go of the 5 senses, let go of control, let go of things. The body is vanishing. And if you do that now, when you're still alive and healthy, when you know you can come back again easy, when you actually die, it's so easy to do. You've been training, you know how to let go of the 5 senses. And it's easy to do because you've been practicing here at Jhana Grove. So when you've been practicing like this, you also know when this nimitta comes up. This nimitta comes up, it's sometimes hard to recognize exactly what it is. And why it experiences like a light. It's not a light, but that's how it experiences, and how to actually to deal with that. And you're doing that right now in this meditation retreat, so when you actually do die, and when that really happens, you're way ahead of other people. You're not afraid, because you've been there, you know exactly what's going on, you're familiar with it. And when you're not afraid, it's very easy to be very still and very peaceful. You can get some amazing things happen at the time of your death. So this is death practice. Brilliant. Because you've all heard that, near-death experiences. You've probably seen movies about it, you've read books about it, documentaries about it, but it's standard experience. 5 cents stop floating out of the body and going to the light, the nimitta. And you recognize what that is. How does one let go of attachments and thoughts about partners and family members? Number one, if you can actually get your past life memories, then you realize, this is not my only partner. I've had so many husbands, so many wives. I've been gay, I've been transsexual, I've been heterosexual, I've been a monk before, I've been a nun before. And it gives us the big picture. Why are you so concerned about this particular husband you've got? You've had so many more in all your years of existence. So sometimes you think, these people who you love and care for are only temporary. You know that. There will come the time when somebody dies, or the relationship wears out, whatever. It's all temporary. And so you enjoy each other's company, and then you can let them go. And the simile, which I think I did this at Nolamara, the simile of another simile of the cup. Now, because monks don't have many things to hold up, they've only got a few things around them, we have managed to be able to get a simile about anything. I've already done the Nobel silence simile, and just holding a cup. Well, this is the cracked cup simile. You hold up a cup, and you ask people, can you see the crack in the cup? Can you see the crack down here in the cup? Can you see, Chandra? Can you see the crack there? There is a crack there, but it's microscopic. By which we mean that one day someone's going to drop this cup or kick it, hit it, and that crack is going to open up and it's going to shatter. It's going to die and not be able to use it anymore. If this cup was plastic, you could drop it, you could kick it, it didn't matter, because it would be unbreakable. But because it's fragile, it's got a microscopic crack in it, which one day will open up. Because it's fragile and subject to breaking up, that is why we must care for it. Just like you, you're all cracked. One day that crack will open up and you'll die. You're fragile, subject to breaking up, subject to death. Because of that, that's why you must care. If you were going to live forever, there'd be no reason to care. If your relationship was going to go on for eternity, why care? It's just plastic. You can kick it, drop it, and it'll always be there. Because it's fragile, that is why we care. Because of death, that's why we have compassion. I understand that. It's very brilliant teaching. So that's actually why you let go of attachments. It's cracked anyway. So just care for your partner as long as they're here. And when they've gone, we have a wonderful time together. Bye-bye. Just like being attached to the raft as it goes across from one side of the river to another. You do attach to the raft, but when it's time to let the raft go, you let it go. When it's time to let your partner go, they're dying, please let them go. Don't cling on to them, because you'll stop them leaving. You stop them dying. And they will be sort of suffering because of you. They're ready to go, but you don't let them go. That's not fair. So when it comes to the time, darling, we've had a wonderful time together. Had so much fun. Thank you so much. Actually reminds me of a story. It's a joke coming. Just on his deathbed, the husband his 4 sons were next to him and his wife. And 3 of those sons were very tall, handsome, good-looking. And the 4th son was very short and dark, and not all that attractive. And as he was about to die, he held his wife's hand and said, "Darling, look, I'm about to die now, so it doesn't really matter. I'll forgive you. Please tell me the truth. That last son of ours. The short guy. Was he really ours? And his wife said, "Darling, I swear on my mother's grave, that is our son." And so he died peacefully. And then she muttered to herself, "I'm glad he never asked about the other three." So you've got to let go of attachments when people die. The Ajahn, someone were chatting to one another and talking over cell phone. They may not realize that they can be heard miles away, which is really distracting to others. Anything to say to them? To say to you, you're disturbing the cell phone. You're disturbing the noise. So look, the point is that eventually somebody talks in a retreat. The alternative is like to have these guards patrolling. And do you really want that in this retreat? Now, if people make mistakes, that's their problem. But it is true that if you have to say anything, if you have to use a cell phone, I think just go away and do it very, very quietly, just out of respect to other people. But if you do hear things, it may have been we had some Telstra people coming today, because when that lightning storm, it really zapped the whole telephone line, so it's fried all the way up to the top. So it could have been them talking, it could have been other people talking. So, sometimes we've got to run this centre. It could have been Dania sort of arranging things, or Bianca. So, there is still business which the caretakers have to do. So who knows? It could have been something very important, somebody's mother dying, or something, really, really important, like checking the stock market. Let it go. Life is good, and even when life is bad, it's good. Very good. Life is good, but death is better. Is it? I don't know. Dear Ajahn, no, it's not an essay. Does a being enter a baby embryo at conception, i.e. when the sperm enters the egg, or during the gestation period, or at birth, or any time at all? Is this changeable? That is usually it can enter only when that little thing is viable. Otherwise, it enters. Imagine entering a sperm. There's a couple of million of them. How do you know it got the right one? Is it going to get an egg? Going in the egg is much better, but even that might not get sort of fertilized. So you've got a dud. So it's very. So usually, then this is actually just how you experience it. Okay, you're looking for a new life, and you get drawn. This is like most people describe it. They get drawn to a particular woman who is basically pregnant. They got a fetus or an embryo growing in their womb there. So it's already attached. It's always already growing in there. Basically, there's a room for rent, in the hotel, and a vacant room. Sometimes they may have a little sign coming up, to let. And so you get attracted there if it's the right karma. And so it's usually just when there's something actually growing in, and not at the time of conception, not just straight afterwards, but quite a while later on. And I think Dr. Ian Stevenson, he actually just collected anecdotal evidence, people who could remember their past lives, and pretty strong evidence that yes, that was a past life, and it was true, their recollection was accurate, and they could not have gained that information from any other source. So it was obvious that it was actually a real, valid past life they were remembering. And there were so many of them, and he actually started to see, the previous life and the new life, what was actually the space in between. And I think the shortest was only a few days. So a few days after a person died, then they actually were reborn. Not sort of going into the womb, but actually coming out of the mother's womb. So they must have entered a pretty well-developed fetus. Is it fetus or embryo? No, fetus, that's right, yeah, after the embryo. And we discussed that because it seems that was actually a real phenomenon. It really existed, that particular anecdote. So it could have been, there might have been another being in that sort of fetus for a while, and it just sort of died, and the other one just managed to get in there. But it was actually just a couple of days before birth it entered the womb. And that's actually quite weird, but it seems to be that that has happened. But usually just quite a few months before, up to 6 months, according it says by the Buddha. So it's quite a long time before it's being born. Part 2, if a being, a soul, we call it stream of consciousness, or these days I prefer it streams of consciousnesses. It's a much nicer idea. If a being, a stream of consciousnesses, is karmically connected to its parents to be, can it influence the conception time? I get into their heads, encourage them to have more sex to speed up the process. That's an interesting concept. I think you stumped me on that one, I don't know. I think it's quite unlikely because usually it's, there's enough people sort of, who aren't keeping the precepts doing all that. So I think that they usually get into a family, a close family. Look, one of the really interesting anecdotes about past lives, and now Dennis Shepherd told me this because he's a hypnotist, a part-time hypnotist. Actually, he's quite good at it. He regresses people. And he went to a seminar in Sydney about a year or two ago. And one of the hypnotherapists over in Sydney told this incredible anecdote. There was a young girl with anorexia. And the doctor, the psychiatrist was not able to treat her. She was getting worse. She was dying. And they took her to this therapist as a last resort, someone who could regress into their past lives to try and find the cause. And that hypnotherapy, whether you believe in it or not, there is strong evidence that it works. They do actually recover from whatever disease or whatever problem they have. They go back to a past life or what they take to be a past life, and when they come out afterwards, the problem is either disappears or is lessened considerably. So it's a very good therapy. So they took her to this therapist, and this particular young girl was very easy to hypnotize, and they regressed her to her past life. And she remembered in a previous life that she was the younger of 2 sisters. And they both, somewhere in Sydney, they both fell in love with the same guy. And being the younger of the 2 sisters, she was not as attractive as her elder sister. And so the boy married the elder sister. And when they got engaged, the younger sister was so upset, so heartbroken, she committed suicide. And now she's been reborn, and because not being pretty enough caused her such suffering that she took her own life in a previous life, in this life she was trying so hard to be attractive, which was the reason why she was anorexic, trying to be thin. There's a psychotic overreaction trying to be attractive. And that's actually a plausible explanation to her anorexia. But the weird part of this was as she was recounting her previous life, her mother, who was with her during the therapy session, she became hysterical. And the therapist had to look after the mother and calm her down. And what's up? And the mother, when she settled down, said, I was that sister. She never told her daughter what had happened to her auntie. She said, I had a sister. We both fell in love with the same guy, and that's my husband, her father. And my sister committed suicide. It's perfectly, exactly as it happened. And now my sister, because she couldn't actually marry that man, at least she's been reborn as his daughter. That's the attraction. And it's a very interesting case and very plausible of what happens from life to life. And of course, I think after that, they understood exactly what was going on in their lives, and they could actually get rid of that anorexia. So that's, there is such a thing as past lives. Anyway, Ajahn, in the Anguttara Nikaya, it says that most humans will end up in the woeful planes. It also says most devas and animals will end up in purgatory. It seems like samsara is one giant funnel pouring beings into hell. Can you elaborate, please? It also said in those days that it's very difficult to get reborn as a human being. Just as difficult as a turtle in the ocean puts his head through this little yolk, which could be anywhere in the ocean. And I think that statisticians can actually work that out. They know the size of a yolk, they know the size of the Pacific Ocean, and they can do a bit of statistical analysis, and it's more likely you win a lottery ticket than you get reborn as a human being. So that's pretty bad, isn't it? But there is hope for you, because that was how it was maybe in the time of the Buddha, but how the population of human beings has increased. And because there's far more human beings and far more vacant wombs these days, it's much easier to get a room in the inn of humanity. In the old days, it's just so hard to get sort of a hotel in Perth. There was maybe only just one hotel, but now there's so many. It's much easier. So because there's many more vacancies these days, because the human population has increased enormously, it is much easier to get reborn as a human being. And people often ask, many non-Buddhists ask, well, where have all these human beings come from? Because they can't have all had a previous life, because there's probably, and it's, as a mathematician I know this was pretty true, there's probably, and I think it's valid, there's more people alive today than have ever died since the beginning of this planet Earth. More people alive today than have ever died. You only need a birth rate of about 2.5 or something, and you do the stats, and that's actually what happens. So where's everyone come from? So what type of living being has disappeared over the last 20, 30 years? The animal realm. Yeah. So many people alive today were animals in their past life, which explains a lot of what happens. That's where most of the people have come from. So it's actually quite easy to get reborn as a human being right now, because there's so many human beings around. So, and it's also very true, because if you associate with being a human being, if that's who you think you are, what you identify with, you'll be attracted to the womb of another human being. That's where you think you belong. You've actually got a bit of a choice there. And that's why there's one person who came up to me once here in Perth and said, when they die, they want to be reborn as a dog. And I couldn't believe them. What do you want to be reborn as a dog for? They said, because then you don't have to go to work on a Monday morning. You can lie around all day, sleep however much you want, and you get fed very nice. Because dogs these days get really treated like princes. They don't eat dog food anymore. They eat steaks and chickens and goodness knows what else. And then I told him, well, yeah, but usually most dogs get sent to the vet to get monasticized. When I said that, this guy said, okay, I don't want to be a dog. He liked his sex. So, you've got a choice what you want to be. So you don't always go to hell. Last night's spider that looked like a crab is probably a tick. It could be that, because there's lots of ticks around, but they're okay, they're Buddhist ticks. They just make you itch, that's all. We get heaps of ticks over the monastery. Ajahn, because that's actually where they come from, the kangaroos, they're kangaroo ticks. And because we're so friendly with the kangaroos, we pass ticks between each other. But over here, there's not that many kangaroos around, so you're pretty safe. Ajahn, can you elaborate on the significance of Uposatha days? Are these the 1st, 8th, 15th, and 23rd of each month? These are the moon days. In the days when you didn't have calendars and radios and TVs to tell you what the day was, you'd look at the moon. And you had the full moon, you had the dark moon, otherwise known as a new moon. I don't know why it's called a new moon, because it's pretty old, but it's dark moon. And you got the half moons. And the calendar is usually 29 days, is a lunar cycle, so 15 days and 14 days, full moon and new moon. and the half moon in between. And then we have the quarter days as well between those. So that became like the Sabbath, roughly the 7th day, but sometimes it was the 6th day, sometimes the 8th day. And 14 days and 15 days with the 29, I think it was a 29 and a half day lunar cycle. And that's where we get our Wesak from, the full moon day in May, but sometimes it's in June. This year it's going to be a real problem because in Thailand it's the 4th of June, in Sri Lanka the 3rd of May or something, I don't know, but it's a very lucky year for us. I said 2012, in Thailand it's 2555, that's the Buddhist year, and the word for 5 in Thai is ha, so it's 2 ha ha ha. It's a very, very happy year for everybody, and it's so happy that we've got 2 Waisaks this year, so you can actually do 2 Waisaks, one in May, one in June. Isn't that good fortune? Could a person in charge of the air conditioner please keep it on longer in the evenings, please? That's what it says. Premonition. Someone's really getting good samadhi. Somebody likes it on longer, somebody likes it on shorter, that's why you see somebody turning it on and then they walk up and turn it off, and then someone turns it on and turn it. So look, just let Dania are you going to be in charge of the aircon? Just whatever. I know that when we designed this retreat center, what I really wanted is you can pull down your personal air conditioner. Have a little bubble, so if you like it cold, you can have it cold. If you like it hot, you can have it hot. So, but when there's no talks on, when we're not all here together, it's too hot in here, go to your room. Or if it's too hot in your room, come here where it's nice and cool. You can have like 3 of these walking meditation rooms. You can have 1 cold, 1 medium, and 1 hot. And you don't have to walk. You can sit down there if you like. Anyway, I like this question. Dearest noble teacher. Yes. Okay, dearest noble teacher, why is it whenever I do metta meditation, I cry uncontrollably and cannot control my flood of emotions? Thank you, much metta, because that's what metta is. Letting go of control. Controlling is hatred. I don't like this, and I'm going to stop it. That's what control is. Loving kindness is letting things be. The door of my heart is open to you. The door of my tear ducts is open. Come out. So there's nothing wrong with crying. I said I've already given out 1 crying license. If you want one too, I'll print one out for you. A crying license, you're permitted to cry any time, at any place, for any reason. Signed, Ajahn Brahm. So it is good, because what metta does, it does start to get you in contact with the emotional world, not the thinking world. And this gets to another point about this type of meditation. I mentioned years ago to the monks, and it's a very good little piece of advice, to get into deep meditation. You can't think your way into deep meditation, you feel your way into meditation. It takes an emotional sensitivity to be able to handle bliss, to know what peace is. These are emotions, and not to be afraid of them. Sometimes peace, even bliss, is very scary. Just like the emotion of crying is sometimes scary. But you have to let these things be. Open yourself up to these things. Come on, have it. Cry. I say when I go on pilgrimage to India, there is 2 places where I cry. And the first one is they have this beautiful statue of the Buddha at Sarnath, outside of Benares. Many of you may have seen it. It's one of the most famous statues of the Buddha in the world. It's on many, many pictures on the front of books. And the first time I went there, I knew it was in the museum, and I wanted to see it. I made a beeline for it. And being an Indian museum, they did not have guards, no book, no guidebooks, no directions. You just, someone paid the entrance fee and you're left to yourself to wander around. And I searched for it, searching here, searching there. And then I turned the corner and I saw it at the end of the corridor. Oh. It's such a beautiful statue. It's one of the most beautiful statues I've ever seen, if not the most beautiful statue. And it hit me emotionally. And then the next time I went and I took a pilgrimage, I knew exactly where it was. And this time, I knew that sort of it was very powerful. And so, you prepared yourself, so you wouldn't make a fool of yourself. The tears started coming again. And the third time I knew, okay, it's going to happen. What's wrong with crying? It's just beautiful. Tears of joy and happiness. It's a beautiful feeling. And the third time I went there, I was prepared. Okay, let's have a beautiful feeling of bliss, and let's have tears. And when you turn the corner, it wasn't tears of joy. It was just this incredible disappointment. Because it was all covered with a cloth they were decorating. And the painter was up there decorating. And my heart sank. You come all this way from Perth, and you've been really looking forward to it. It's really stupid, expectations. And I thought, oh no. And then the painter took the cover off. Oh! The tears came again. That was lovely. Actually, you came on one of those trips, didn't you? So did you? I think the first trip, it was the first trip you came on, wasn't it? I think the first trip, that one I went by myself because I was looking for it. It's very beautiful. And sometimes those things happen, so I'm not afraid of those emotions. It's called piti sukha. They come up and it's gorgeous. There was another lady who went on one of these trips to India. She lives here in Perth. She's an English lady, and when I told her at the briefing before we left that some of these places you go to are very emotionally powerful, be prepared to cry. And she said, come on, they're only ruins. She said she came from England. There's so many ruins in England, old castles, old palaces. What's this? Just another ruin, that's all. But then the first place we went to that trip was to Bodh Gaya, the Mahabodhi temple. And as soon as she walked in, this English lady, and she could not stop. And so she came up afterwards to say sorry, ask forgiveness. She said, I thought you were crazy. I thought it's only an old ruin, what you could cry for? But it just hit her so deep, and she wept. So, sometimes those places do have power. They really get up some strong emotions inside of you. And you let it come. You're allowed to do that. You can cry as much as you like in this retreat. And who was it? A few years ago, this guy came here and he started crying. He said he hadn't cried for about 25 years. It's just a wonderful thing to do. He was so happy. So great. If you cry uncontrollably, very good. You're getting somewhere. Most Advaita practitioners, this is non-duality, they claim that full enlightenment seems to emphasize the present moment awareness. Yes. They also deny karma, as there is no self to receive or own karma. They also stay well clear of the Four Noble Truths. Please explain what Ucheda Vada means in Brahmajala Sutta. Okay, this is many questions here. The Advaita Vedanta is a Hindu thing of non-duality, and if you actually get really into it, it's very easy to pick apart, because they say it's the non-duality. They say neither good, neither bad, neither here, neither there. That's just the mind creating this dualistic look at the universe. But if you look at that, that's basically just intellect going crazy. They still die, they still have pain. You ask a person who's been an Advaita practitioner when they're sort of in great pain and they really want to go to the doctor and take a Panadol or do something. The only real way you can actually find if a person is really enlightened is actually when they're in distress, and to see whether they really are in distress. It's very easy to play enlightenment, but to be enlightened is something different. And to deny karma as there's no self. There is no self, but there is not nothing. This is actually one of the great teachings of the Buddha in the Samyutta Nikaya. He said you can't say there is something because things fade away, they pass away. You can't say there is nothing because things arise. So there is an arising and there is a passing away. So it's halfway between being and non-existence. It's cause and effect, dependent origination. And that actually particular sutta became, Nagarjuna picked that up, for those of you who are scholars. And it was the beginning of the Majjhimaka of Mahayana. And a lot of times people say Majjhimaka of Mahayana was not really Mahayana at all, but was just reinstating Theravada. You can't say there is something, because it all disappears. You can't say there's nothing, because there's an arising. So this thing we call streams of consciousness. It's a process, not a thing. It's not nothing. There's something happening there. But it arises and passes away, arises and passes away, arises and passes away, continuously. So it's a process. That's what the existence is. It's not absolutely nothing, because we're here, we can experience things. Nor is it something solid which persists. It arises and passes away, arises and passes away. And that's what carries the karma, the cause and effect. Uchedavada, that is the idea, this is just a technical point, that is the idea that when we die, we all die, everything vanishes, the mind, the brain, everything is all destroyed. So in other words, it's the idea which many people have, when you die, you're dead, and that's it, nothing continues on afterwards. It's what they call materialistic view. One life, eat, drink, and be merry, because tomorrow we die, and that's it. So no sort of after death. Dear Bhante, a few questions. Buddha would abide in the signless samadhi. What is that? Okay, that's when there is no signs. That was just a one way where the Buddha would not take any locus for his consciousness. So in other words, by not fixing on this or that or anywhere, then the mind stops. As I understand it, the 7 factors of enlightenment are all synonyms with jhana factors, with the exception of Dhammavicaya, also known as investigation or discernment. Can you elaborate on how to practice this? The 7 factors of enlightenment are not just all jhana factors, but they are based on viveka, 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 nisaya, that's right. Paviveka nisaya. So these are dependent upon like seclusion. So those enlightenment factors, mindfulness, investigation of Dhamma, energy, joy, tranquility, stillness, and wisdom. And equanimity. Those are the 7 enlightenment factors. Number 6, samadhi, stillness. Now that's a jhana one. The upekkha, that comes as a result of the jhana, but many others are actually precursors to jhana. The mindfulness, the investigation, which is what I was saying, the wisdom power, the virya. The virya is the energy. It's the energy which comes up when your mindfulness starts to become strong, which I've been talking about. Piti, the joy which comes up with that energy. I've mentioned this, when you really, the mindfulness really starts to get the energy rather than going into doing, it goes into knowing, you're energized and you get lots of joy. Now this is a fascinating point, that when you're energized in joy, then you can be still. If you have not much energy, you can't even sit still and your mind goes all over the place. That's a sign of low energy, not high energy. When you've got lots of energy, you get so happy, so blissful, you've got the power to be still. And the mind can be still. And then the samadhi, the stillness of jhana. Is walking meditation limited in its capacity to develop samadhi due to the complexity and tension involved? If one gets the beautiful body whilst walking, then does one need to sit to go deeper? Thank you. Okay, so you're doing walking meditation. And the delightful walking meditation is when you're walking, first of all, just like the breath meditation, present moment awareness, silence, and then you feel the movement in your feet, and then the mind gets totally filled with the sensations of the moving in the feet. You can feel the very first sensation when say your right leg starts to lift off the carpet, and you can feel it as it moves upwards and moves forward, and all the thousands of sensations which go into just one step, and you're right there when it happens. And because your mindfulness is increasing, you can see all of those sensations. It's not just left, right. It's a whole a process of so many different movements associated with so many different feelings and sensations in your leg and in your foot. And as your foot goes down on the carpet, you feel the very first sensation when the first part of your foot, which to me is the ball of the foot, meets the carpet first of all. You can feel as the carpet and the feet just come together, and just all those sensations becomes fascinating. So number one, the feelings actually fill the mind. So there's no other thoughts going on, it just totally fascinates you. And next what happens, because it's fascinating you and filling the mind, and no other sort of disturbances, the energy starts to come, your mindfulness is increasing, and it becomes actually quite delightful. And you're watching these movements of the feet, and it's just so lovely. You've got to the delightful walking meditation. And that basically is as far as you can take the walking meditation. I always said, because you've got your eyes open, because you can't really still that any further, you can't get into jhanas. However, one of the monks said he saw this monk in Thailand, this old monk, who did get into jhana while he was doing walking meditation. And he said he knew that because he had all these bruises and cuts on his face. Because as soon as you go into jhanas, the five senses have disappeared, and he was carrying on walking and bumped into things. So it's not a good thing to do. So if you see anybody in the walls and in the rooms and they bang against the wall, that must have been they got into jhana. Bang! Don't know what they're doing. So no, look, the usual piece of advice, if you really are getting still, and you really think you're getting close to a jhana, sit down where you are, or just walk into this room here and sit down and take it further. But my sort of story about the walking meditation, my first year even in Bangkok, I really got into the walking meditation. And after chanting in the morning in the main hall, on the outside, which was about this length, I do walking meditation. And it took me half an hour to get from one end to the other, and half an hour back again. An hour's walking meditation, because I was going so slow, so peaceful, I couldn't go faster. And this particular experience, one day, I was really enjoying myself, just noticing all these incredible movements of the foot as it came up, and it was just delightful. And then there was some distraction. Someone was calling me from a long way away. I wondered what it was. And then I realized there was a monk whose mouth was in my ear, trying to get my attention. You were so into the walking meditation, it was like thousands of miles away. So you have to come for the dana, the meal. I'd forgot there was like a ceremony, a food ceremony I had to be there for. And I realized I should actually go there, because I was only a very junior monk. I couldn't keep all these other senior monks waiting. I'd already been late, and that's why they sent this monk to come and get me. But I couldn't move. I tried to move my head, and that was a funny bit. I was really trying as fast as I could, but there's always incredible movements when your head starts moving from one side to the other, and they were so fascinating. I just couldn't go fast. And just after maybe about 2 or 3 minutes, I managed to actually eventually turn around and say, "What?" And that's what it was like. You were so still, it took a long time to go up the gears and go back to normal speed again. So you're so inside this beautiful mind. So it's delightful. So that's actually what happens with the walking meditation. And some of you may not do very well on sitting meditation, but you do really well on walking meditation. So the walking meditation is brilliant. If anicca means uncertain or not for sure, it must be correlated to dukkha, which is suffering. Yeah, of course. But don't we like the uncertainty, especially in relationships? Yeah, of course. That's why you get married, isn't it? To keep you uncertain. Tell me you love me, darling, forever. Isn't that what we want? We want the certainty. Our love is eternal. I'm going to love you, not just for this lifetime, for the next 7 lifetimes. No, actually, we like certainty in life. That's why uncertainty is a bit sort of hard to bear. So, when are you going to die? It's not certain you're going to last tonight. Never do today what you can put off until tomorrow, because you might die tonight. So actually, uncertainty is a very, very difficult thing. People like to invest their money to have certainty there'll be money for them later on in life. Me, I invest all my energy in karma bonds. I made so much good karma that's my superannuation fund. When I get old, I'll always be looked after because of good karma. It's much more certain than the stock market. But doesn't excitement arise from uncertainty? Excited happiness or wildness? Appreciate your comments. No, a lot of uncertainty means fear. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will one day become separated from me. That's a saying of the Buddha. It's scary sometimes. Everything, the whole lot. But after a while, when you really get into uncertainty, then you can let go, because that's the nature of things. Relationships come, enjoy them. But they go, enjoy it. What did you expect? You know the rules of the game, so when it falls apart, it's not something which is unexpected. With nature, of course. When the cup breaks, it breaks. It's not someone's fault. You don't sort of go and blame somebody for walking into that glass panel. Well, actually, I did blame the person, but you're not really supposed to, because glass is nature. It's uncertain. It's going to break one day. So it did the other day. So it's uncertain. Can you explain about sense door restraint, especially mind door? Okay, restraint is not looking around all over the place, not sort of listening to what people are saying. In other words, keep the attention inside. Don't send it outside. It's very easy to send it outside, like somebody may be talking in your room, or in the cottage in the central area, and you're inside them. What are they saying? Are they talking about me? What are they really saying? It's none of your business. So keep the senses inside. Don't go looking at who's really meditating well and who's really nodding and who's really good. That's other people's business. Keep your intention inside. And that's called sense restraint. The same as the restraint of the mind, keep it in the present moment. Don't let it go out into the past or the future or into thinking. Keep it home. It's restraining it. Ajahn, epiphany! You got a light bulb came up. The sex I have experienced at this point in my life has been a form of grasping. Oh, no, not groping. Anyway. A wanting to get away from myself, get away from the other person, a fear of. How is it possible, as a non-celibate layperson, to have sex that would point me to joy, happiness, etc.? P.S. Not asking a technique of the Kama Sutra. Okay, you've asked the expert on this question. Okay, it's the same advice I give to people when they get married. And many of you who've been to Nolamara have seen me say this many times. When you're having a relationship, it's not about you. And it's not about your partner. It's about us. So any relationship, even like the sexual relationship, it should never be about you. It should never be about the person you're having sex with. It's about us. It's two becoming one. And usness. And that's great in a relationship because, I've noticed that in a relationship, there's usually one partner is the Hinayana and the other one is the Mahayana. The Hinayana is they're mostly in it for themselves. What they can get out of the relationships, what they can get out of the sex. That's the Hinayana, the selfish. The other Mahayana, they sacrifice themselves for the other person. Both are very dysfunctional and wrong. If you're a selfish person, that's no relationship. That's no way to have fun together. And if it's just giving, you get burnt out. There's nothing in it for you. Both are wrong. That's why we have the middle way. There's no Hinayana, no Mahayana. It's us. We together. So you don't separate yourself out or separate them out. It's all about us. So try that idea. And it actually changes the whole dynamic of a relationship, changes the whole dynamic of sex. It's not about me getting my pleasure or giving pleasure to you. It's about us. Try that. But not on this retreat, please. Make too much noise. So you don't disturb the kangaroos, I don't think the female monastic should have to wear those long-sleeve shirts under the robes. It's inflicting torture in 34 degrees weather. The Buddha didn't make that rule, so they shouldn't have to follow such a silly ritual, especially in 21st century Australia, where equality amongst gender is valued. Okay, that's why they call them bhikkhunis, because it's very close to bikinis. They're getting cold. I have to wear this big robe as well. So sometimes I think this is Australia, we should have a singlet and shorts for the monks. I've got songs already. But no, we try and keep it cool, but because we're monastics, we've got that extra, we're so cool inside, that even you guys may be very hot, but we're so cool. So look at them. Have they sweated yet? Have you seen any bead of perspiration on them? So they're cool, they're okay. It's a difficult one because we've got uniforms, and this is like a uniform. Yeah. Wear my robe? No, because that would be very dangerous. So, we just wear the lower robes and the jacket. And I think the same with the nuns when you're doing your work. You don't wear this outside robe, it's just too floppy and dangerous. And some of the stuff I did. If you look at that big hall, somebody reminded me of this the other day, that big hall in Bodhinyana, that, the eaves, which is that wall which goes right up to a point, before there was any sort of rafters or wood on there, I had to lay a couple more bricks on the top corner. So I climbed up there, there was no scaffold, I got a ladder, climbed up on the edge, and climbed up there with bricks in one hand and a bucket of mortar on the other hand, right to the very top to lay the last bricks. Absolutely crazy stuff I did that day. It was good fun, that. If you'd have actually seen me there, you'd have got occupational health and safety and I'd have been in jail. Okay. Dear Venerable Ajahn Brahm, the word sangha is sometimes used loosely in other traditions, where a group comes together to practice with or without a teacher. In Buddhism, it's a term exclusive to the renunciant, the laity only to be referred as the lay community. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, if one practices alone, it may help to consider the cushion or bell as friends, i.e. sangha. Help clarify. Actually, the sangha really should mean monks or nuns. That was how it was used in the time of the Buddha. For lay groups, it's called parisa. They use a different name in Pali. And that's sometimes really important because sometimes there's a sort of disrespect to the monastic tradition. As if, the lay community, is they are sangha as well, and they should be given alms, and they can walk in line and put food in their bowl. The reason why we're monastics, why we're sanghas, is because one of the things we're celibate. We don't have possessions. If you see a person in a robe with a bald head and they've got lots of money and they're having sex, they're not a monk, they're not sangha. So, the sangha, there's a sangha there because of these rules we follow. And if a lay community, if they're celibate and they don't have possessions at all, fine, they can call themselves sangha. Because, being a monk, being part of the sangha, there's responsibilities and duties to that. Thank you for the retreat. Ajahn, your kindness and attitude are contagious. I'm a monk with attitude. Would you like to tell us how the Buddha got awakened? He did breath meditation up to the jhanas and remembered past lives and made the breakthrough by understanding suffering. That's right. That's why I haven't got onto the insights yet. But an interesting take from the suttas is after you get the jhanas, remember your past lives. And the Buddha called that the first breaking of the chick out of the egg. The first crack in the egg when the chick is getting hatched. Remember your past lives. Why? Because that gives you the big picture of the situation we're in. Now, how can you really get insight into the meaning of life when you only think there's one life? When you see there's so many lives, that gives a totally different perspective on this thing called life. He said that is a powerful insight, which is available for people, and to get that, that does really change your life. And that's what an insight is supposed to do. Totally spin you out and give you a totally different understanding of where you are and what you're doing. And that also gives you a very, very good handle on what the Buddha meant by suffering. Oh, we've got some more here. Why do you think gradual training seems slightly different in its presentation to the Eightfold Path? It's actually exactly the same as the Eightfold Path. It starts off with the sila. Actually, it starts off with a bit of faith in the Buddha's teachings. This is the gradual path, one way of describing the path to enlightenment. The gradual path starts off with you get faith in the Buddha's teachings, or faith in meditation, or faith in something to do with this path. And then that begins the start of your right view. And then you start to practice some sort of restraint. And to be able to do that, you do need this right intention. The second factor of the Eightfold Path, you know what right intention means? In brief, it means making peace, being kind, being gentle. That's where that comes from. That is a pretty accurate rendition of the second factor of the Eightfold Path. It's what you actually do, your intention. The thought, right thought it's sometimes called. And in the gradual training, you perfect the precepts, and then the gradual training, you do the jhanas, which is, the sati samadhi, the virya, not samadhi, samapadana, the right effort, the right mindfulness, the right stillness. But interestingly, for those of you who are getting into this, because people have been reading the books, which is good, if you look for the Eightfold Path in the Anguttara Nikaya, and you look for it in the eights, you don't see it there. It's not in the eights, it's in the tens. Because you have the Eightfold Path up to the right stillness, samadhi, the jhanas, and that's followed by the ninth and 10th factors, which are the wisdom parts, the insights. It's samayana, sama vimutti, right freedom, and sama vimutti yana. As a result of the samadhi, you get the wisdom, and you know you're enlightened. So that's actually where it comes. So it's actually exactly the same. The gradual training in the Eightfold Path. Just wondering why the Buddha chose to frame the Fourth Noble Truth of the Eightfold Path rather than the gradual training of the 7 enlightenment factors. Because that's the path. And the destination is the wisdom. So the gradual path actually includes the Eightfold Path and also the wisdom. Ooh. Without the doer, Ajahn Brahm, that's what it says down here, Brahm, how can we enjoy the non-doer's retreat at this lovely place? Non-doing is still doing on purpose. What do you reckon? We are still very lay and very much trapped in the daily chores that go around the clock. Can you please show us how to live out of the time frame which creates so much stress and pain in the mundane life? You are extraordinary. Thank you for help and being you. I'm not me. I'm someone else. Am I? I don't know who I am. Anyway, I'm not you. You're you. I'm me. I'm only messing around. Okay, where are we going? Okay, the non-doers. Okay, now hopefully that you haven't gone up to Bianca and Dania and say, I refuse to do my chores because Ajahn Brahm said I shouldn't do anything. No, when it's meditating time, that's when you don't do anything. When it's time to do your chores in this place, cut the vegetables or sweep up, please do that. When there's something to do, give it everything you've got. When there's nothing to do, then do nothing. So there's so much opportunity when there's nothing to do here. When there's nothing to do, then no doing, no doer. The doer can disappear. When there is something to do, give everything you've got. That was Ajahn Chah's little piece of advice to this guy from Sydney, who went to see him all the way from Sydney, just to see Ajahn Chah, all the way to Thailand, found the monastery, found Ajahn Chah, but was surrounded by so many people he couldn't even get close to ask his questions. He had all these questions about Buddhism and meditation. And after an hour or two waiting in the back of this throng surrounding Ajahn Chah, he just gave up and just said, okay, I might as well go back to Sydney. But his taxi was going to be another hour or so. He saw the monks sweeping the ground, so he picked up a broom and helped sweep. Just make some good karma. And that's when he was busy sweeping. He told me this over here. He said that he felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned around and it was Ajahn Chah. He noticed this Westerner had come all this way, hadn't had a chance to ask any questions. So out of compassion, Ajahn Chah just gave him a very simple teaching. And through the interpreter, the teaching was this: if you're going to sweep, give it everything you've got. And then he went away. And this guy from Sydney said this came from a very, very great monk. If you sweep, give it everything you've got. So he realized it was important. And he realized what it meant is if you're working, give it everything you've got. Work. If you sleep, give sleeping everything you've got. If you're eating, give it everything you've got. If you're playing, enjoying yourself, partying, give it everything you've got. If you're meditating, everything you've got. Put everything you've got into every moment, whatever job you're doing. And he said his career took off, his relationships were amazing, his spiritual life was brilliant with that very simple teaching. So when there's nothing to do, give nothing, everything you've got. Now, if you do nothing, really do nothing. Totally 100%. If you're cutting up the vegetables, 100%, cut the vegetables up. If you're going to the toilet, 100%, sit there and just do it properly. Whatever you do in life, 100%. And that's actually a very simple but amazing teaching. And you think it's obvious, but you don't do that. You sit in the toilet and you're reading a book. You know, you're cutting the vegetables and you're thinking about dependent origination and the meaning of life. Come on. Ajahn. I did tell the carrot joke, didn't I? Yeah, I told the carrot joke first day. Didn't I? Yeah, I did, okay. That's one of my favourite jokes. I love that joke. Ajahn, I have such a love for pirates, boxing, heavier, darker forms of music, etc. Is this a contradiction to my love for meditation, Buddhism, and ways? No, as long as it's just playing pirates, not really being one. And boxing, as long as it's shadow boxing. And heavier, darker forms of music. It's pretty heavy music what we do here every evening. Yo, so. No, it's okay, no worries at all. You can still be a Buddhist. It's just your way of expressing yourself. Honestly, why do we work so hard for jhana anyway? Exactly. First, you will lose yourself completely and it may even blow your brain out. It's about time you blew your brain out. Your brain has been responsible for so much suffering. All your thinking, your guilt, your anger, your worry, that's all your brain. So you don't work hard for jhana. Jhana is what happens when you stop working hard. So that's why it's a wonderful thing to do. Come on, be lazy. Give up, let go. Be so lazy you can't even think. I refuse to think. This is my holiday, my retreat. I'm not going to think, I'm going to sit. I'm not going to do anything. I refuse. I'm going on strike. You know, they sit down, strike, you know what they do? I used to do that as a student, you know, sit down. So that's what you're doing now, you're striking. Sit down. Ajahn, please speed read this so no one will understand except you. No, I think it might be a private one. I'll read that later on. Can you get jhanas doing walking meditation? Yeah, I can, but you'll bump into the wall, so it's not a good idea. So far, my meditation has been quite disappointing. Excellent. All these other people are really proud up themselves. They're trying to get things, and you're the one who is just letting go and being peaceful. So you haven't achieved anything. Exactly, you're letting go of your pride and your wanting. Brilliant. But at least I have plenty of good sleep and good food. I guess that's good enough. Right on. Very good. If nothing else, I've learned a few wonderful things from you on this retreat. It's only not even halfway through yet. The best is yet to come. The first one, and this one is finally sinking in, I must be kind to myself in everything I do. Brilliant. If that's all you ever learn on this retreat has been invaluable. Be kind to yourself, and that leads all the way to Nibbana. The second one, you said this right at the start of the retreat, is be here. How simple, yet how delightful. Brilliant, you're on the fast track to Nibbana. I can't tell you how much of my life I spent always trying to get somewhere in a hurry. I even used to pride myself on my super fast walk. The third one, be mindful. For me, the best meditations I've had have been while I've been out in nature, just listening to the birds and feeling the mind caress my face. Or the wind caress my face. Even having a cup of tea is a delightful mindful experience. Thank you, Ajahn. Well done, brilliant. You get the prize. You know what the prize is? The best meditator here, the prize is a free haircut. Lovely Ajahn Brahm. Where is the difference between restraint and control? Restraint is letting go. Controlling is force. Fighting and protecting. Fighting is violent. Protecting is just stopping. It's not doing, it's a stopping. Love and loving kindness, they're both the same. Although sometimes love can be with attachment. Loving kindness is a love which frees and doesn't demand anything of anybody else. If you want to know the difference, this is my acid test of the difference between love and loving kindness. So, do you love your partner, or have you got loving kindness towards them? So this is a test. Think of your partner, especially if they're not here. And when you go home, you found they've left a letter for you. They've run off to Bali with your best friend for a beautiful, dirty, sexy weekend. How would you feel? If it really is loving kindness towards your partner, if their happiness is the most important thing in your life, you'd be so delighted they're having better sex with your best friend than they ever had with you. Oh, I'm so glad you're having a wonderful time in Bali with my best friend. Oh, I'm so joyful because your happiness gives me so much joy. If you really get upset, what? They can't do that to me. Then that's that love called attachment. That's the difference between love and loving kindness. Okay. Great love and compassion. Compassion is, what really compassion is, it's a separate thing in Buddhism. It's that love which you give to someone who's suffering. So you see someone in pain. So it's loving that particular type of being who is hurting. But now real love is you love people who are happy as well, not just those who are suffering. Attachment and detachment, that's a pretty easy one. When attachment is when you can't let go of things when you need to let go of them. In other words, when the time's up, they have the old story of how to catch a monkey in the forest. They get a coconut, hollow out the inside, and they leave a little hole in the coconut just big enough for a monkey to put its paw in. And they tie that coconut to a tree, and they put a banana inside the coconut. And they go home, and sure enough, sooner or later, a monkey finds that banana and puts their hand in to take the banana out. But the hole is only big enough to put a paw inside. It can't get the hand and the banana out at the same time. And so the monkey is trying to get the banana out, but just can't do it. The hole's not big enough. And then the hunter comes, and the monkey sees the hunter coming, but it won't let the banana go and run away. There's plenty of other bananas in the forest, but it won't, because that's my banana, and I found it, and it will not let it go, and that's how they catch the monkey. And so often it's like that, you see. And I've never actually been in an emergency on the aircraft, but they always say that if there's an emergency, leave your personal belongings on the plane and get out as soon as possible. Do people do that? No. No, the aircraft is blowing up, and they go up there and get this and get that out and clog the old arse. Why? Because it's my gifts, it's my things, even though it kills them. So that's attachment. It kills you. Buddhahood and nirvana, pretty much the same. How to let go and of what? Let go of writing questions. There's too much questions there. Keep them simple, for goodness sake. You let go of everything. You let go of the thing trying to let go. That's what you should let go of. That's very profound, isn't it? That shuts you up. You let go of the thing writing the questions. Dear Ajahn, sometimes meditation just feels like really hard work. That's because you do second Noble Truth meditation. Try third. It's easy. Does it get easier and should I just push through the discomfort? No, don't push through the discomfort. Stand back. If it's really hard work, that's doing second Noble Truth meditation. You're trying to get somewhere. You want something. You've got a goal you're trying to reach. You're not really being here. You're trying to get somewhere. So just be here. And then it's not pushing through the discomfort. It's just being here. And the discomfort disappears. Dear Ajahn, I have never heard so many contradictory statements make so much sense. As a student of logic and philosophy, it is refreshing. Thank you. Yes, I disagree. So yes, I disagree. Okay, get the joke. Do you remember any of your past lives? If yes, please tell us. I remember the past life when I used to be a long-haired student. That's in this life. No, I can't tell you. Have a look, Pajitya number 8. I don't make this up because I'm trying to hide things. It's one of the things we're not allowed to tell you as monks. But there is a way of finding out. These are the loopholes, the tricks. Because what a monk usually do, or a nun, at their deathbed, when they're dying, that's when you ask them. You go up to them, did you remember your past lives? How many jhanas have you got? Were you enlightened? Any psychic powers? Because you're about to die, you're actually allowed to tell them. So the trick is this. You put some sort of, there's lots of doctors here, put some sort of drug in the tea or the food until I'm almost out. And they go and say, okay, Ajahn, remember your past lives? I say, okay, I'm about to die, this is what I was and this is what happens. And then once you've got it all out of me, you say, ha ha ha, you're not really dying after all. I shouldn't tell you these things, some of you are going to try it. Dear Ajahn, thanks so much for the splendid teachings we've received here. Today I've had a problem. My meditations have been accompanied by an intense, ugly feeling inside. I tried welcoming it, being kind to it, taking breaks, resting, but it doesn't seem to go away. If you welcome it, it's not supposed to go away. That's the whole point of welcoming it. It shows me you're not really welcoming it. You're doing a trick to try and get rid of it. That's the problem. So really, really welcome it. So you can stay here forever. You can get worse. Then it goes away. That's the thing, isn't it? We say let go, let go. We don't really mean let go. We're letting go, trying to get somewhere. That's the problem. That's why it's not gone. Is it that there has been too much mindfulness too soon, that my previous meditation made my brain's happy chemicals become a limited commodity? There is no limit to the happy chemicals in the brain. There's no limit, boundary to the bliss you can feel. So no, it's just because you're actually doing something there. You're wanting something. That's why it's carrying on. So just be content, totally content for the rest of this retreat, for the rest of my life, for the rest of my 7 lives, 100 lives. I'm just going to have this feeling, even worse. Thank you for coming. And really welcome it, without any strings attached. Don't say I welcome you as long as you go quick. In the Dhammapada, I'm pretty sure the Buddha says people who commit adultery go to the hell realms. Is there anywhere the Buddha says if you let go of guilt, you don't go to hell regardless of what you have done? He said that in the Vinaya, that if a person admits what they've done and makes amends, in other words, learns from it, that's growth in the tradition. That's growth in the training. Admitting, recognizing what you've done wrong. There's no guilt there, no punishment, and you learn from it, you grow from it. He said that is the growth. Acknowledging what you've done and taking steps so you don't do it again. That's the growth. And where it says you don't go to hell, that is when you become a stream winner, then you can't go to hell, no matter what you've done. And the reason why, as I was talking to a few people, is because as a stream winner, you really understand this self business. And there's no way that you feel this terrible sense that I'm a bad person, and you feel guilt. When you're a stream winner, it's very easy to let go. It's natural you let go of guilt. Before then, you have to actually be encouraged to do it. It can be done. Could you extend a little on intuition? Does this come from knowing I value myself as a rather intuitive person, but find myself often putting intuition aside and instead going through an arduous task of reasoning with logic? There were studies done in psychology last year where they did tests of students in the psychology faculty somewhere in the West, and they gave them tasks. One group of students had to think it through and act logically. The other one just felt it intuitively because they wanted to find out which was most accurate. And the ones who followed their intuition, I think, were 60 or 70% successful, while those who were logical were only 50% successful. It's actually proved that your intuition is far more reliable than your logic. It's a great thing, so just remember your intuition. And if you want to find out, if you've got to make a decision, this is a thing I taught in Nolamara, and I also taught this in Norway. Were you there in the talk I gave at Oslo University? You weren't there. Oh, okay, that's a good one, because a lady asked this question. I always remember this. I was a bit embarrassing for her, because she asked the question, she said, and if I've got to make a decision in life, how do I make that decision? It's a really difficult decision. So I said, well, suppose you're trying to decide whether to marry your boyfriend or not. And then her jaw dropped. She put her hands to her face. Oh no, Ajahn Brahma's guessed what I was thinking about. That's what I was thinking. And her boyfriend was sitting next to her. She was so embarrassed, and everybody realized what had happened. They burst out laughing, that poor girl. So be careful what questions you ask a monk. Sometimes they pick up what you're really thinking and embarrass the hell out of you. So I told her, if you have a difficult decision to make, toss a coin. But it's much more interesting than that. Heads, I marry him. Tails, I don't. So that's what you say. And you toss the coin, and it comes up heads. How do you react? If you think, maybe I'll try 2 out of 3. Then that means intuitively you don't want to marry him. If it comes up heads, you think, yeah, that means yes, you did want to. Tossing the coin is not to make the decision for you, but to reveal your intuition, what you really want to do. That's a brilliant sort of exercise. So you've got a decision, change the job, go here, go there, toss a coin, and see what the reaction is when it comes up. That reveals your intuition. And follow it. I've heard that doing metta meditation alone cannot take one all the way to full enlightenment, because metta meditation only brings calm, not insight. But given your story of Metta the dog also making it to the top of Mount Meditation, can you explain how insights are generated while doing metta meditation? My hypothesis, developing unconditional love for all beings helps erode the sense of self, i.e. me being different and separate from other beings. Does this count as insight into anatta? Thank you. With metta, it does lead all the way. It said that in the suttas. You can do the metta or karuna, the compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy, equanimity. You can get into the liberations of the mind through those. And that's in the Attanagara Sutta. It says that that's one of the ways to get full enlightenment. And that's there said by the Buddha. That's actually said by Ananda, but they was asking, what did the Buddha say is the way to get enlightened? And that's one of the 11 ways through those things like metta meditation. And what happens when metta gives you the jhana? The jhana gives you the great insights, which I'll talk about later on, and you become enlightened as a result. So yeah, you can go all the way through metta. No worries. How does one meditate on a problem? You want to know what to do about something, and you must have therefore thought about the situation and what the right intent is for you before you approach the scenario or person. Thoughts, please. What you do, you put all the material in your brain, so you get as much information as you want. Then you stop thinking about it, and you just let the mind process it, and that's what meditation can do. I remember one Inat, Ron, ex-partner. She came on a retreat years ago. She was an executive in the social services department, a leading social worker. And she told me she came late because she had to tie up many loose ends and she didn't finish tying them all up. And she had some very important decisions to make when she went back to work after the retreat. But she was a good meditator. She totally forgot everything and just meditated. And after 4 or 5 days, she came to me, interviewed. She said, it's amazing. I was just getting very, very peaceful. All these ideas came up, these solutions to those problems. And they're brilliant solutions. And I could never think those through. They just arose out of the silence. And that's a brilliant way of solving problems in your life. You put them into the brain, so you get all the information, as much information as you can, and then totally stop it, meditate, have a really nice peaceful time, and then the answers will come up. And they're incredibly brilliant answers. So that's what she did, and that's what I asked you to do. Now, you've already got the information inside. You've already programmed it in. The hard thing is to stop thinking about it and let it be, so the mind can see intuitive ways of dealing with the problems. You mentioned this morning malaria as an occupational hazard for monks. I have had Ross River virus now for almost a year. I got it in King's Park in Perth. Visitors beware. I have had a lot of trouble loving this illness, as it has landed me in bed and in pain and unable to move for many days of this year. On this retreat, I have spent 2 whole days in bed, barely able to get out for lunch and talks. I'm trying to tell myself, oh, how lovely and comfortable it is to be tired all the time and such, but I'm getting so frustrated. Please help. Okay, many of those diseases in the body, they do respond to meditation. Now, when I had scrub typhus, I was laying down for about 3 or 4 weeks in the bed in northeast Thailand. And this was the time when they had wards, not just individual beds. There's about 7 beds on each, if I remember correctly, in the monks' ward of Ubon Hospital, and that was really a backwater. That's 1974 or 75, I think. Really a backwater. When I went in there, they put a drip in me, put me in the bed, and I noticed about 6 o'clock the nurse's station was vacated. 8 o'clock, the night nurse hadn't arrived yet, so I asked one of the monks, what should we do? Should we tell someone the night nurse hasn't arrived? And the monk said, what do you mean night nurse? There is no night nurse. We only get a nurse during the day sometimes. So if something happens in the middle of the night, unfortunately that's just bad karma. I don't want to be here, I want to be in a proper hospital. And the lucky monks were the ones who had the beds at the end of the ward, close to the toilet. As for me, I was a long way away, and I used to go to the toilet once a day. There was no bedpans or anything, and you had to get up, and just to get vertical was a huge effort. And you just lunge, literally just fall onto the next bed, pick yourself up, and move along to the toilet. I used to do that. I think, well, maybe twice a day, I think. And when you got in the toilet, you really vacated everything, because you didn't want to do that too many times a day. And that's just how much energy I had. But I still managed to get into deep meditation, not even feeling like that. You can always make peace.
Do you not fall asleep?
Because I'd slept enough.
For days on end and can go to meditate and it's not off.
Yeah, if you meditate, not off, but just make peace. Be kind, be gentle, don't fight. That was the most amazing thing. You haven't got much energy, so don't waste it. You go, you make peace, and then you go inside your mind. The body is tired, but it's amazing, your mind, just how much energy and power that can have. So you go inside the mind. And there you're just totally free of this body. And it's like being out of prison. Because this body was very tired and couldn't do very much. And there's always aching. Really aching and in pain. And the worst part of that experience, as I told people, was this nurse who would come twice a day to give you antibiotics. Now this was the days before recyclable needles. So they'd use, before one-use needles they have today. Those needles were recycled, if you remember those old days. They used to boil them up, try and disinfect them and use them many, many times. Now remember, this Thailand in 1974 was a third world country. So they didn't have much money, and I was pretty sure this was the case. They'd use the needles in Bangkok first of all, then send them to the provinces, recycling them. And then they'd be used over in the ordinary people, and the last of all were the monks, with the tough guys. And that's what it felt like, because the nurse, no exaggeration, she was built like a water buffalo. And she had to be, because they never injected, they took the thing and they stabbed it inside your bottom. And just, my bum was so sore. You know, it's like being caned by somebody. Just, it really hurt. And with all the compassion in the world, and I had trained in compassion, I hated that nurse. It was really awful. Anyway, but you know, you can still, with the sore bottom and a sort of a body which is just so weak, you know, you manage to say, I'm going to just make peace, be kind, be gentle. Totally in this moment. No sort of words, just be still. Just the body vanished, you went straight inside. And that was just so much, that was actually bliss. And you know, knowing what it's like to have that bliss, and that was just so wonderful. To get out of this body for an hour or so and just really bliss out. Because one of the rotten things with the sickness, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. You just get a break for a little while and it feels so much better. Then you can take more sort of... So try it, I mean, it does work. Was it Jung who said that we create the world around us with projections from our minds? I don't know if it was, I wasn't there at the time, but it's a good thing he said. So is Mara the ultimate movie maker? Yep, him and Steven Spielberg. Who else is good movie makers? But anyway, yes, so Mara is sort of does make movies inside the head. Is this what you meant when you said we have no control? We just imagine that we do when we try to control things. I'll mention more about controlling later on when I give some talks on insight, and especially the nature of the will, to uncover what is this will, who actually is in control. All will be revealed in a day or two. If insight into dukkha equates to insight into anicca and anatta as well, could the Four Noble Truths be framed in terms of anatta or anicca instead of dukkha? I am unsure of how the three marks of existence relate to the Four Noble Truths. Please explain. Okay, how can you do that? You have the origin. The fact there is such a thing as dukkha. There is such a thing as anicca. And what's the origin of anicca? Craving. Craving makes things change. No craving, and things become still, and nothing moves. Letting go of craving is a way to stop anicca. And how do you do that? The Eightfold Path. That works. Anatta, non-self. There is such a thing as non-self. What creates the self? Craving creates the self. Let go of craving, and your sense of self vanishes. And what's the way to let go of the self? Eightfold Path. Yeah, it works. Easy. Ajahn, awareness has come to me during walking meditation. Hallelujah. Many things are very good. Actually, I shouldn't sort of be too flippant. It's great. Awareness has come during walking meditation. Very good. Many things so far, but amongst them we must be grateful for our toes, for without them we will be screwed for balance. That's very profound. It is true, because without your toes, you will keep falling over. So be grateful for your toes. So thank you, toes. Dear Emptiness Ajahn Brahm, how reliable and authentic are the suttas in the Pali Canon? Are there any sections or passages that do not make sense to you, that may have been added, or things that the Buddha would have never said? Sometimes in the Digha Nikaya especially, there are some of the things that are like the 31 marks of a great, 41 marks of a great being or something. That is really weird. Because if you look at the marks of a great being, they have a whole sutta there with these things which distinguish a Buddha from all other beings. And as many people pointed out, that if you actually look at those, that would be a real freak, a freak of nature. That would be someone very, very strange, and that does not make any sense whatsoever. So there are some things like that which don't make any sense. And the great thing with Buddhism is you don't have to just take what the texts say as authoritative. It's not like the Bible or the Quran. It's not like something which has been given from some infallible God. It's like a guidebook. So it's like a guidebook. It's just like those GPSs you have in your cars, where it says turn left at the next intersection or turn right. And you may find that sometimes the GPS has errors. When I was in London recently, they were taking me back and they said, please go across the bridge, and they didn't know the Albert Bridge was closed for renovation. So we couldn't go across. So sometimes the GPS makes mistakes, just like the suttas. It's like a GPS, your way to enlightenment. And sometimes things might change for you, so you've got to adapt to it. So it's not authoritative in the sense that every word is infallible. But if you look at it all together, there is a message which is consistent within the whole of those suttas. And it's that consistent message which you read and read and read, this way, that way, and it's something consistent comes out. The little details here and there, like the marks of a great man, that's just not really essential to the teachings. So that one you can discard. It's 9:30, so there's too many questions. I've got most of them here. Shall I finish off? There's only 3 questions? Okay. Thanks for bringing my laughter back. I have been tight and stressed with work that I have lost. I have been tight and stressed with work that I have lost in the controlling world. After I let go past few days, I'm able to laugh again. I believed I have caused pain and suffering to my family. Now I need to continue letting go until I am back to normal again. I don't have a solution for my future, but I'll be back for the future retreats. See you all. Hasn't finished yet. You're coming back, you haven't left. But it's very, very good to laugh, because remember, this is the Mahayana. And what happens when you become enlightened? What's an enlightened being called? Arahat. That's what they call enlightenment. So laugh a lot, it's very good for you. Can you please explain how to practice? It's really boring in some religions, wasn't it? Because it's one of the reasons why I turned against Christianity, because there was no laughter in there. Went to these churches when I was young, and they're really stone cold. There's so much stone in there, and even in the seats there was no cushions at all. And just, they were told to be really, really quiet. It was just so severe, and there was no love there. Inside those cold old churches. And you went to some of these Buddhist temples, and kids were messing around, running all over the place, and the monks were always fat and happy. And that was actually really quite encouraging. Can you please explain how to practice sense restraint? I did that one already. What does signs and features mean? Then the signs, for example, what's your favourite food? Can you imagine your favourite food right now? Now you're getting hungry, you see. It's suffering. So the signs and the features, the taste of it, or the smell of it. So there's certain particular parts of it which really get you excited. And see what happens, you can't have that food now. So it's suffering. So you have sense restraint, so you don't even think about it. Then you have a good time. And what's the difference between restraint and control? I did that one already. In the Karanya Metta Sutta, a line whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, one should sustain this recollection. Does this mean recollecting thoughts of metta towards living beings? Yep. Or more generally, metta in whatever is the object of awareness in the present moment, even if it is not living being, e.g. the breath of thoughts, etc. Now, first of all, most people say you only do metta towards living beings. But there's no reason why you can't have metta towards inanimate things as well. This is the story, it's a great little story this, of one of the Anagarikas who was staying at Bodhinyana about a year ago, and he was from Germany, and he told me this story, and he's an honest guy, he wouldn't make it up. When he went to college in Germany, the very first day on campus, he walked past an ATM machine, and it gurgled. That's what he said. It made this noise. And so, he being a sort of a weirdo, he thought that this machine was talking to him. So he said, hello back. And from that day on, that was his ATM machine, and he'd always be kind to it and say hello and good day and how you going. And he gave it metta every day, and when he passed it. And then some weeks later, he was having his lunch on a bench close to his ATM, and it gurgled again. And he looked around, and a 20-euro note came out. No one was anywhere near that ATM machine. And he couldn't believe this 20-euro note had come out. And he picked it up, and he waved down, does this belong to anybody? No one claimed it. It was his. That was the result of giving metta to an ATM machine. It actually was true. It worked. So if ever you're very short of cash, go today and say, nice ATM machine. I hope you're always happy and well, and no one ever swears at you or hits you. May you be protected from the rain and the sun, and may all of those technicians treat you with respect when they come and empty you and service you. You're a beautiful ATM machine. Now cough up. But you can have loving kindness to ATM. You may not, I know this is not the monks here. When I started building Bodhinyana Monastery, one of the first things we bought was a cement mixer. And that old cement mixer was my mixer. I bought it, I did most of the work. And look, other people sometimes, they could not start that mixer. I could always start it. And I'd always give it loving kindness. And it was always start with me. Other people tried, pull, it would never work. And I said, leave it alone. Look, come on, nice cement mixer. Bought it first time. It did. And that was another story. Someone said their car was busted and broke. They forget what it was. And they remembered my stories, and they gave their car loving kindness, and they turned the ignition, it worked first time. You try it. It actually works. Don't say how, but it does. So you can do loving kindness to anything. ATMs are brilliant to do loving kindness. So measuring whatever is the object of awareness in the present moment, yeah. That line always confused me because it would seem difficult to always be sending metta to living beings all day long in 4 postures, because throughout the day one's object of awareness changes to all sorts of things. Indeed, that's why, but you can always make peace, be kind, be gentle to whatever you're doing in this moment. Be gentle, be kind to yourself, be kind to all beings, be kind to the carrot you're chopping up, be kind to the cushion you're sitting on. Thank you, cushion, for supporting me. So, you can have loving kindness towards everything, and that really works. The line, even as a mother protects with her life her child, this also confuses me, because to me a mother's love isn't totally universal, unconditional. It's biased and based on attachment. Mothers love their kid more than other people's kids, and are attached to their kids. Seems strange to make that model of true metta. The only reason I think the Buddha used that model is because mothers do actually sacrifice their life for their kid. So that degree of loving kindness, to the point that you have so much kindness, you're willing to sacrifice everything for that kindness. You're holding nothing back. I mean, that's that 400% kindness. I think that's as far as the simile goes. Last! Yeah.
Also, the mother's love is boundless. You love your child no matter what.
Yeah, that they do, yeah, because even if your child goes to prison, at least, they're the best serial killer ever. Whatever, it's true, the mothers, they always find something in their kid. If they're a bank robber, they're the best bank robber ever. They're so proud of the kids. And that's actually a beautiful quality. They just can't see a fault in their kid. Other people can, but they see something beautiful. And that, I think, is really wonderful. Please explain the 3 insights of the First Noble Truth. As a wise bodhisattva, what did he not fully understand about dukkha? Because he didn't understand just how far back it goes. He didn't understand it penetrates every part of existence, just like a rotten apple. If it's rotten to the core, there's no point in saving part of it. He didn't realize everything, totally, 100%. Even heaven's jhanas is dukkha in that sense. Does the pleasing attitude disguise a full comprehension of the dukkha? It's not that, it's just our nature is to try and say something for ourselves which isn't dukkha. So we get rid of all the dukkha and live in a place where there's no dukkha, happy ever after, riding off into the sunset, happy ever after. And you've got jatipi dukkha, maranampi. What does the P mean? Now that's just part of that, means also, it means and, plus. The P, whoever wrote this question here, that's just a party question. The jatipi dukkha, maranampi dukkha means jati is dukkha and marana is dukkha and fading away vayadi or sickness is dukkha. What does nandi mean? Nandi means like rejoicing. How is it different from tanha? Tanha is craving, so you crave for something and when you get it, you rejoice in it. That's nandi. Whew. Oh, finish. At last. Very good. Very good. Very good. So it's 20 to 10. Is that too long? If it is, it's your fault. You ask too many questions. So please try, because it does get a bit long of an evening. So 1 question per person tomorrow. Okay? And by 1 question, I don't mean part A, part B, part C, part D. Give it to 1 question. So if you put a question in there and you think you want to ask another question, then take the first question out and replace it with a new question. Because otherwise it goes on very, very long. And anyway, you're supposed to be getting enlightened and peace. This thinking mind is supposed to be stopping. You're supposed to be silent where there are no questions. So see if you can make the mind peaceful and quiet. And if you have a question, just 1 question per person per day. And don't try and sort of, see if you can buy somebody else's opportunity. You can have your question please today. No bartering. So anyway, so have a very nice evening, a nice rest, nice meditate, whatever. So the 3 sadhus to end the night. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.